What's going on, y'all? I want to give you my first impressions of the Presonus CS18AI. So at Summer NAMM, I got to sit down and spend about 15 minutes with it, and really got to mess around and get into it and see how I liked it. By no means is this a review, because I only spent 15 minutes with it. I just want to give you my first impressions and my first hands-on experience with it. The first thing I want to say is that I'm really interested in it because I'm getting to a point where I'm really hating to mix with a mouse. I want a control surface, however, I'm not sure yet if I'm a control person or control surface type of person. I can't say if I like it better than a mouse because I've never really used a control surface before. As far as mixing, now recording in studios that I record at here, most of the studios I go in has a Avid Pro Tools controller like the C24, but only use that for tracking. I'm not really mixing in that studio. I mix it in my home studio, so I'm really interested in it. So one of the first things I noticed, we'll start off with, is the size. It is a big unit, so if you need the desk space for this. If you see in the picture here at their booth, it's hanging off the table. If you have seen a Studio Live 16 mixer, it's the exact same size as that. If you haven't, you can go to Presonus website, and under the product page for the CS18AI are the dimensions for it. So I got the dimensions, and looking at my desk here, I definitely need a new desk if I purchase one of these, and I'm actually looking at getting a new desk anyway, so that won't be a problem. But the first thing is the size. It is a big unit, so you will have to have space if you're looking at purchasing one. The second thing I want to talk about is the layout of it. The layout is interesting in the fact that the pan knob, which you see here, any channel that you select, you can use the pan knob here to select the pan for that track. I also found out that the knobs across the top that control the settings for the fat channel also double as pan knobs if you aren't focused on a plug-in. If you have a plug-in in focus, it will control that, but if you don't have a plug-in in focus, those 16 will be pan knobs for your 16 faders, which is interesting in a way. I'm wondering how easy would it be to tell, for example, if I want to grab channel 8 and do the pan, those knobs at the top aren't numbered for your faders, so you either... I think the best way to use the pan is the knob under the screen. And speaking of the screen, I figured out that it is a touch screen. But that pan knob under the touch screen, I think would be the best way to use the pan, just because grabbing knobs at the top there, because it's not numbered, you don't really know what you're grabbing unless you sit there and count it off, and that's kind of wasting time. Another thing, the red bar or the red meter that you see there at the top, that is the gain reduction, how much compression that you're getting. I think it's really cool to be able to see that in a control surface. Also, the meters going across the top above the knobs, I thought that those were only for the fat channel. Those double as meters for your 16 tracks. So there's a lot going on this control surface where things are utilized and doubled up as something else. Another thing, there's a lot of buttons on it also that aren't for Studio One. It's for the Studio Live part. I got to pushing a lot of buttons and nothing happened, so not everything on here is for Studio One. And of course, if I purchase one, I'd be primarily using it for Studio One. Speaking about the knobs at the top as well, I was very excited to notice that they not only map to the fat channel, but they also map to the Studio One stock plugins. This was a huge thing for me because, like I said, I'm starting to hate mixing with the mouse, and I want something to grab and control my plugins with. I was close to purchasing a Softtube Console 1, but I'm not a fan of plugins that I have to put across every track in my mix. Also, the Softtube is emulating an SSL console, and one of the favorite things about the SSL console, at least for me, is the mix bus compressor, which is not included in it. But I digress. Back to the CS18AI. Those knobs are pre-mapped to the Studio One plugins. Now, Rick said that in the future you'll be able to map those to third-party plugins, so that'll be really cool. It'll take some time to set up, but it'll be very much worth it to have all your plugins mapped to this, where you can turn knobs instead of clicking parameters with a mouse. So that would be one of my favorite things there. I don't know another control surface that will allow you to do that. Maybe the Avid ones, I'm not sure. Well, I know the artist, the mix, just the 8-channel one. That's just fader and I believe pan and solo and mute. But being able to map, and 16 knobs is a lot. So any of your the plugins that'll have the most parameters to map would be an EQ, a compressor. If you got your ratio, attack, release, threshold, you're not going to have 16 parameters on a compressor plugin. So the most will be EQs. I did not figure out how to use the Q to change the Q value. One of the things I'm very curious to find out is I noticed I did not see a button or a way to open the mix window, open the edit window, open the browser window. These are things that you can do with the fader port. So I would like to imagine that if I'm getting something that does a lot more than the fader port, I want to have that same functionality with it. I'll be interested to see, and it could very well not be on there now and very easily come with a software update. But that's one thing I noticed. I did not see a way to open up those, the mixer browser, the editor window. And I'm also curious to see if I can open plugins from the CS18AI. For example, maybe browse my plugins through the touchscreen and add a plugin to a track that way versus using my mouse to add a plugin. Because if I purchase one, I want to get as far away from using the mouse as I can. So that's one thing you can't do now, or I did not see a way to do, but I am interested to figure out if I can do that. That'd be nice. Lastly, just a quick look at the back here. I also did not see an internal Talkback mic, so I don't believe one is on here, but on the back you see channel 1, because this is a 2x4 or a 4x2 interface as well. You've got 2 mic pre's, 2 line ins, and 2 outputs. Channel 1 is for a Talkback mic, so you can take an SM57 or something and throw that up as a Talkback mic, because I don't see one internally on here. One thing I noticed that I am not a fan of so far is that when I would move between, say, by default you're looking at track 1 through 16. When I would move to track, say, 17 through 32 and select a track, the mixer would not follow. So if I was previously on track 1 and then I jumped to track 20, while I am controlling track 20 with the CS18AI, however, the mixer window did not follow along to track 20. Now, it very well could be I didn't have something set in Studio One to make it follow, or it could be that Presonus just hasn't added that functionality yet, but I did expect the track to follow I expect the mixer to follow whatever channel I'm on the CS18AI, which it was following it. It just would not, when I go past 16, the mixer just wouldn't follow down the line and show the track that I was on. But there it is. There's a quick first my hands-on impression with the CS18. I'm very excited to see where Presonus takes this product, because things like this that you can update with software, you can get, and as we've seen with Studio One, you can get an update, even like going from Studio One 2.0 to 2.5, you can get an update that makes something feel brand new again. So as long as they continue to update this, which I'm sure they will, I can see this being a very popular product. Again, I want to also quickly talk about the price. I've heard some people complain about the price, that $2,000 is high. $2,000 is high, but when you look at what you're getting, I think it's completely fair. You're getting 16 channels for the $2,000 plus more. You're looking at the pre's and interface as well. $2,000 for this kind of functionality is very fair to me. Most control surfaces, if you look at the Avid one, you're getting less functionality with 8 faders for $1,000, or I think it's actually over $1,000 now. So the price is very fair to me. But that's my first impressions of the CS18AI, and I'll catch y'all next time.